Hi, Taran. It was so great to finally get to connect with you and chat to you in real life. Can you just start by telling us a little bit about what you do in the world, your magic, and what brought you to this point so that everyone who hasn't maybe come across you can just get a little bit more context about what it is that you do?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Like we said, we've been Insta friends for a while, and it's nice to actually sit down and have a conversation and chat all of the good stuff that's about to come. So I appreciate that. So my business is the Social Bolt, and I started my business back in 2019, or as I like to say, the good old days, when things were much, much simpler
Mhm.
for online business owners. But I started my business as a virtual assistant and social media manager. The reason was for a couple of reasons. Firstly, my background was in admin. I'd had an admin job in corporate for many, many years. And so that was like my experience. That's what I had. I'd also just recently gone back to study marketing at the grand old age of 31 years old. So going back as a mature age student to study marketing, that was interesting. So I wanted to go into social media management because at the time, it wasn't quite the beast it is today. It was only really just beginning, and I loved seeing how businesses and brands were using it to market their business. I really enjoyed those early stages. And so I decided I want to be a social media manager. However, I had a bit of trouble getting a job because my experience wasn't marketing related. And, if anyone has applied for a marketing job, you know that they expect you to have so many different skills and also like 5 years experience. So I didn't have that specific marketing experience. And one thing you should also know about me is that I'm a massive introvert. And so I like to stay at home with my dog specifically. And I was like, maybe I could stay at home every single day with Ned and work from home and start my own business. And so I was like, I'll mix my experience and my marketing degree with my love for staying at home and spending time with my dog. And so my business was born The Social Bolt. Now, that was in 2019, so that was 7 years ago. Today, my business is still The Social Bolt, but I am more focused on messaging and marketing. I call myself a messaging and marketing wizard, but if you're a muggle and not into Harry Potter, then I call myself a messaging and marketing strategist. So my business has evolved over the years. In the last 7 years, unfortunately, Ned is no longer with me, but I have my other sidekick, Magic, or Maggie, as she's known. So yeah, that's basically what I do and how I got to be here in a very shortened version.
Yeah, it's such a big question to ask right up the front because there's obviously so many like I call like businesses like this fantasy quest that we're on where we're always on the path and it takes us in so many different directions and it is so hard to condense like a Lord of the Rings style story into like just a few short minutes.
Yeah, it's the hardest.
Yes. But that's so interesting because I think that a lot of people, I have this theory about Instagram in particular, and you will probably have something to add here. But what I think Instagram has done, and a lot of the marketing out there, as like marketing people ourselves, a lot of the marketing that's done on Instagram gives people a false perception of like, you come in, you start your Instagram account, you can start selling immediately, and like that's your business. And my experience, and it definitely sounds like yours as well, is that it is this winding path where you start with a set of skills and you start with something you're like, oh, I think I could do something with this. And as you go along the path and on the journey and you meet new people and you start to even work with people and see what you like to do and what people are coming to you for, that starts to unveil basically what your message is, what your actual area of expertise is, and starts to help you craft your message. Would you say, like, I just think that so many people come in and they're like, oh, I just need to start an Instagram account. And then, like, where's my clients, basically?
Yes, if only it was that simple. And I think that is kind of the reason why I guess I'm not in social media marketing anymore, is
Hmm.
because there is that unrealistic expectation of what social media can do for you quickly. And this is not to say that that's not possible and
Yeah.
that, social media can do these things, but it does take time.
Hmm.
And what I found is people are trying to, I guess, replicate what someone else is doing before discovering like who they are, or taking into consideration, what they want to be known for and what their unique blend of magic is.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it would be great if that we could just start an Instagram account and that was considered like marketing. And I think for some people that is that expectation that it is, or that perceived perception that it is.
Hmm.
But, there's so much more to it than that. And, getting to know those things and learning who you are is all the stuff that adds up and brings that unique blend of magic into what you're creating. So, yes, I wish social media was that simple, but there is a lot of things, I guess, that goes into it that you probably don't expect or see. So yeah, that's why my my career as a social media manager was short-lived, and I have so much respect for social media managers.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just think that from a marketing perspective, there's so much that goes into it, and that's I guess why I focus on messaging because I'm a big believer that that is the anchor point for everything that you create. And so that's if you want to have a successful social media account, Instagram account, you definitely need to have really good messaging first and foremost.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about that? Because I talk a lot about documenting your journey as a way of like revealing these elements of like of basically the melting pot, the cauldron of who you are. If we're going to keep it in magical terms, it's one of our things that I know we have in common. You've got like your magical messaging, and I've got my like fantasy quest messaging. So I always see your stuff, and I'm just like, yes, I love it. But what in terms of like your micro messaging that you talk about and really how it pulls all of that together to create something that explains to people what they're doing. Like for people who are sitting going like, I don't even know what my message is. I personally am a fan of like, well, just share, document what you're doing, share bits of your behind the scenes, and it will start. It's like starting with a marble block, and you're just chipping away at it to find the statue or the sculpture underneath. But do you have a different approach to this? Is there something that you would start with explaining to people, like why their messaging is so important and what they can do to really start to, unravel that bigger kind of concept into something that they can take and do with today?
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. I think messaging is something that feels very like high level, but like
Hmm.
what actually is it? And how do I start creating my own?
Yeah.
And so that's why I talk a lot about micro messaging. And in micro messaging, when I talk about it, I'm thinking about three specific things. And this might help, guess, get a little bit clear on what that looks like for each person. But it's made up of desire, demand, and differentiation, which is like my framework for everything I do. It's built up of those 7 years of working with people, supporting them, whether it is creating their strategy or writing their content and copy for them. There's always these three elements that you need to consider or factor into your messaging. So, desire is pretty much all about your ideal clients. So, the person you are creating the content for, the person who your business exist to serve. So it's all about that person and where they're at currently, what they want, problems, challenges, desires, all of those, the good stuff that makes up that person that you see in front of them. Because humans are very complex.
Mhm.
It's a lot more that goes into this than just like, oh, I want that, I'm going to buy it, right? We're just going through so many decisions, so many thoughts, so many feelings. I'm Pisces, you're Pisces. We have very much like deep feelings. We feel
Mhm.
things deeply. So we need to take that into consideration as well.
Mhm.
And I think that that is a big part of like what you do in your messaging. It's always got to be about, well, who are you doing this for? The
Mhm.
other element is probably more focused on like the market and where it sits today and the reason that people make those decisions or the reason that people need your services or your products.
Yeah.
So it's more like it's about demand. So why is now the right time to purchase or work with you? So
Mhm.
that's more about the current market situation. And,
Mhm.
as we know currently, the market is very different to what it was last year even.
Yeah.
And so there's many factors that you have to consider when
Mhm.
you are, marketing and selling your offers. And then the third thing is probably relates mostly to what you've described it as, and that's all about you. It's
Mhm.
about what makes you different and unique. And so that's differentiation. So this is like, what is your unique blend of magic, as I always like to reference it as, but it basically means like, what are your skills? What are your knowledge? What's your expertise, your experience? Like, your qualifications, everything that makes you into you,
Mhm.
and how you got to be here and doing what you're doing and serving and supporting people. So, again, like I shared at the start, like my unique blend of magic is that I have that experience in admin, but plus also backed with a marketing degree. I'm
Mhm.
also an introvert, so the way that I market and sell might be different to someone who is an extrovert. But also then like my entire career, I guess, or my entire business journey, there's
Mhm.
bits along the way that make me different, that make me unique and make up part of my story. So messaging is really made up of those three things and being clear on those three things at all time before you start then creating marketing. But like you
Mhm.
said, sometimes people jump straight to the doing,
Mhm.
straight to, marketing. I need to do this first. And yes, you definitely need to move and market, but just taking stock of, okay, am I clear on who I'm creating this for? Am
Mhm.
I clear on like why my offers are needed now? And am I clear on like who I am and why I'm the person to support them? So I guess
Mhm.
that's how I view messaging as a whole, and those three elements are really what it comes back to each and every time.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love that it's like, they're really great questions to ask before creating anything, whether it's an email or a piece of social media content or an offer, even to just be able to clearly answer those three questions. Because what I find is when I talk to people in my sort of space, or in my audience, we have a lot of people who stay so much in the planning mode and feel like they can't get started until they have absolute clarity around every piece of what they need to be doing. And then, yeah, another on the other side, it's like the jump in, but creating without intention, creating without a plan behind it, which can be a lot of work, a lot of busy, stuff is happening, but it's not necessarily leading to anything. So if we're trying to create, a podcast and a YouTube, and we're doing this and we're doing that, like really, I notice a lot of people start to burn out because they're like, well, that's what everybody else is doing, without actually thinking about why am I doing this? Who is it for? And what step of the journey is it bringing people along? So for anyone who is in the thinking and wanting to get it perfect before they get started, do you have any words of wisdom for those people first up?
Well, I'm very, I think I'm the right person to speak about this because I am a perfectionist and I don't think I've ever underthought anything. That's just, that's how I am. I just think about all different scenarios and all
Hmm.
different things that could play out. And it's great because you think about all these things deeply.
Hmm.
However, you can get stuck in the, oh, well, oh, it's not quite perfect. I'm not really sure. Like, oh, maybe I'll just spend a little bit more time on this. And before you know it, timelines are blown out, like 6 months have
Hmm.
gone, and you actually are still in the same place that you were.
Yes.
So I think it's really good to have those standards that you like to, you know, stick to and kind of make things really good. But
Hmm.
also, there's the saying that I always come back to is done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that in business, you have to get used to doing things like imperfectly. It's
Hmm.
just how it is in business. You will not have a successful business
Hmm.
if you are constantly stuck in the planning and never doing. Because if you're constantly perfecting, like you're missing those opportunities that someone is out there looking for the exact thing that you can help them with,
Hmm.
but you're not out there sharing your magic because you're like perfecting it like for the millionth time. And the other thing that like also tends to happen as well is if you spend so much time perfecting something, again, when it comes into that demand piece, is you might have missed the market, you might have missed the
Hmm.
opportunity to put it out there,
Hmm.
and that you could have missed all those amazing clients that you worked with because you waited for so long. And so, kind of looking at from that perspective of that sometimes as a business owner, you have to put things out there that aren't perfect and just be like, okay, I'm just testing the market to see like what happens. And anything that happens from now is data. It's just
Hmm.
telling me whether like I need to maybe refine it some more because you will find out, oh, actually, I might need to refine it some more. You might put it out there and it's like not what people want, or it might be something like you need to change it a little bit more to get it right. But you'll never know that unless you put it out there. And so I think we kind of, as business owners, and I get it, I love my business and I love working with clients, but we don't want to hold too tightly to that perfect idea of what business looks like because it
Hmm.
definitely doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
And as someone who has been in business 7 years, there's been so many iterations of my business where I've
Yeah.
changed and done something else because A, the market wasn't there. B, I didn't really enjoy it anymore. That's what
Hmm.
happened with social media management. But, you know, if I waited and waited and waited, I wouldn't know that. And look, to be honest, I probably wouldn't be running my business. And so I think, yeah, my advice is to put it out there and test and just say anything that comes back is data. It's just going to be helpful. It's going to teach me something. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to have a conversation with someone. Like it's all learning. There's no failures in business. Everything's just about learning something new and then going on with it. That's literally my mindset for
Hmm.
everything I do in my business.
I love that so much. And it's 100% true because it's like you can't actually know what the next step is at all times. And I think as well, something you said there about, I don't know about anyone else listening or yourself, but I'm like my worst critic. So
Mm.
everything to me is
Same.
imperfect. And it's almost like this, it's this golden like trophy at the end of a journey that you're never going to actually get to. And so it's like if I'm judging all of my work based on being my harshest critic, like that would be a world where nothing would ever go out and nobody would ever see it. And what I've found over the years is the things that feel a little bit like an edge to me to share, like a little tiny bit vulnerable or a little bit imperfect or like haven't quite figured out an idea yet or something that I'm journeying with, but I share it in its imperfection. I always find that that's the stuff that most connects with people, and it helps me to go, okay, I'm onto something here. Now I'm going to put more time and energy into developing this idea more. Have you found that as well? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think definitely it's all learning, and you might be surprised with the things that happen as a result of putting yourself, out there
Mm-hmm.
and sharing those things. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of the times you have this idea in your head of about what it looks like. And then you put it out there and it becomes even better because of what you've learnt or what you change in it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, your initial vision is kind of not even as good as it possibly can be. And sometimes it's nice to be surprised in that way. And the other thing I would say is like as a perfectionist as well is just recognizing that us perfecting things like your level and your standard of doing things is already so high. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, even if you are putting something out at like 50%, 60%, like that is still going to be a lot more for many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess kind of just like looking at like that is that, it doesn't need to be 110% perfect to
Yeah.
put it out there. It's already going to be amazing, but like imagine how like you put it out there and it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just looking at it in that way, I think can be super supportive and super helpful to stop the, procrastination and just put it out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's just literally getting stuff out, getting in front of people. I mean, that's essentially what marketing is. And it's so funny because I studied marketing back in 20, well, it wasn't even 20 something back then. It was like 2004. So there was no social media yet, really, back then. I think we just had MySpace, maybe, but it was definitely not. I don't even think we did have it. I can't remember for sure, but it was like super, super early. And so that wasn't even a thing yet. And, I think maybe email marketing, I learned to build my first website using Dreamweaver, like in one of the modules that I did around website design and development. And so, yeah, it's also that the market is changing so much that exactly there was something you said before that I just wanted to touch back on about how if you spend so much time behind the scenes trying to get everything ready and perfect and feel like you're ready to put it out, so often that opportunity moves on because the way that people in the marketing space especially is like you get your early adopters and your innovators, you get then the mass of people, and then it's like it's over and people have moved on to the next thing. Now, one thing that I've always loved is that when you're just showing up online as yourself in the purest version of that, where you're not trying to pretend to be something you're not jumping on trends, you're really like locked in on your messaging and how you help people and what it is. Those trends can kind of come and go. And you like, I remember when I first started working with introverts and it really blew up for me. And then all of a sudden, all of these people who wanted to start working with introverts started popping up. And I was like, that's awesome. There's not that many people. So it's really good that we've got all these new people doing it. But what I noticed is that they would like within 3 months not be getting clients still, and they would move on to the next thing. And then suddenly they're doing something else that's popular right now. And that was where I really started to feel like, oh, I've got this is like at the core of the work that I'm doing. I'm deeply passionate about this, whether it's popular or trending right now or not. And I feel like that's always served me in my business. Do you have any thoughts about that? And especially because the market has changed in the online space so much in the last 12 to 18 months. Do you have any thoughts about that in terms of like, yes, the demand, but also like that piece about yourself and the work that you're really here to do and how that impacts those decisions and what we're jumping into and what we're going, you know what, I'm staying out of that one.
Yeah, I think, look, when I talk about, when you talk about your personal brand or, in my framework, it's the differentiation piece, and that's all about like your unique blend of magic. I think that it's often the hardest for people to, I guess, tap into. I think it's much
Mm,
easier to look at like the market or like what their ideal client, and that's why people jump on trends and because they want to
mm,
fit in, essentially.
mhm, mhm.
They want to have that success that other people, they want to replicate that. And sometimes, like, uh, working on yourself and being comfortable in yourself and building self-belief and self-trust
Mhm.
is hard and uncomfortable work to
Mhm.
do. However, it is the most important thing. Like, I would not have the business that I have today. I would not still be in business today
Mhm.
if I wasn't very much focused on, okay, what is it that I want to do in my business? How do I want to show up? How do
Mhm.
I want to serve and support people? Because I think that that is something that gets lost along the way when you're looking externally for validation or
Mhm.
externally for guidance. And this is a big issue I see right now, especially with AI, is people outsourcing their voice, they're outsourcing their thoughts, they're
Mhm.
outsourcing, like they're looking to AI to tell them who they should be, when
Mhm.
really the best thing is like looking at yourself. Like, what are the things that you bring to the table? What do you
Mhm.
love to do? How do you love to serve and support your clients? How do you like to create content? That is like so important
Mhm.
because yeah, like you can do anything in business. You can become a coach who does this. You can become, then move on to, yeah, if you want to coach introverts, and you could move on and, do low ticket offers. You could move on and do, high ticket offers. You could do anything that you want in your business. But really, ultimately, at the end of the day, most people start their businesses because they, like me, I don't want to have a real job around people all the time. I wanted to
Mhm.
create my own.
Mhm.
Therefore, I got to listen to me and I have got to make sure that my business is sustainable and it's going to last like many, many years. And I think it has because I've always stayed very true to who I am
Mhm.
and my skill set, my unique blend of magic. And I've always anchored into that
Mhm.
so that, yeah, I can look externally and I can look at what the market is doing. I can look at the online space and how many business owners come and go and all the trends, and I can jump on them. But
Mhm.
like after a while, that becomes a bit tiring. And so, if you want to build a sustainable and successful business, you need to make sure that you're equally focused inward on yourself and not just always looking externally, which is probably goes against a lot of the marketing advice. But I know that my business wouldn't look like it does today. I wouldn't be successful if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And everyone who listens to the podcast regularly will be like laughing probably because it's exactly what I always say. We talk a lot about self-trust here, and I have this kind of saying about being an introvert in particular that. We're kind of fine on our own. And so there's a little element of like, I'm totally happy being on my own. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show up here and I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to talk about stuff I love because that's my favorite energizing way to connect with people. And if and when other people want to join in on that and be a part of it, that is amazing. But I'm going to show up anyway. And there's like an element of like a stake in the ground of like, this is what I believe and what I'm into and what I love and how I can help people. And you're right, it does go. I hadn't realized it till you said it. They're like, that is so much against what normal, like what your traditional marketing people would say about how to especially create content and show up and cut through. But I actually think that that makes you blend in more when you're trying to be like everybody else. And it actually brings me to something you've been talking about so much lately that I've seen around the AI thing because I have seen so much. It's such a divisive topic, and we're seeing so much people who are fully going basically, if you do not have AI integrated into every part of your offers in your business, you are not going to succeed. The same way that, like 2 years ago, people were saying if you're not doing video, you're not going to be successful in your business. So it's just another iteration of that. We've got the people who are like all in on AI right now, completely changing their businesses, their offers, their content, everything. And then we've got people who are mostly on LinkedIn, I think, who are just constantly complaining about AI and it's the worst thing ever. Obviously, the environmental impact, and what it's doing with our brains and all of the things on the other side. What I've been loving about the conversation you're having around around AI in your content is that you are not saying, you're like, this is your differentiation. You're kind of bringing in this nuance that we so rarely see in this day and age on social media. Like post 2019, I think that's what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years of actually talking about the ways to use AI to enhance what you've already got and not, as you said, outsource everything to these large learning models and use it to help with what you're doing. But you need to have your messaging clear and that part of who you are, your voice figured out first in order to get the best out of using these models to help you go off. Tell us more about about where you're at with this and how that's really, is there a strategy behind that for you, or is it just something that you're deeply passionate about talking about at the moment?
Well, look, I mean, some people might think that I hate AI, which is incorrect. I just get frustrated, I
Yeah.
think, with there is lots of messaging out there that's like, if you don't use AI, you'll get left behind.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
there's, people saying that like it's just and so overwhelming and there's so
Hmm.
much noise out there.
Yeah.
And so like, of course, people are going to be like, oh, I probably should use AI because I don't want to get
Hmm.
left behind.
Hmm.
But my issue with that is that, like, again, it comes back to that self, right? It
Yeah.
comes back to, who do I want to be? Like, am I just doing that because everyone is telling me that I should be doing that?
Hmm.
Or, am I actually using it to help me and enhance what I'm doing? And right now, I find like people are doing stuff that you don't really need to do in your business. You're kind of creating that
Hmm.
busy work. You're kind
Yeah.
of doing a lot of things that, like, do you actually need to focus on, for example, setting up a skill in Claude that clears out your downloads folder, for example? Do you need to learn how to do that? Or would it be better if you spent some time like in conversation with your community or
Hmm.
maybe creating some content, that you created based on what's exciting you or that what lights you up. So I think that there is that very much, it's very noisy out there. Like even I get like open Instagram, I'm like, whoa, like I'm behind. I'm not
Yeah.
learning enough. Oh,
Yeah.
I probably should learn how to do this. But then I'm like, do I need to, or do I
Hmm.
need to create from what makes me magic? Do I need to focus on me and like how I'm serving and supporting my clients and showing up for them and doing things for them versus like spending time, being distracted doing those things. So I guess my big issue is like I really hate fear-based messaging
Hmm.
because like I said, things have changed so much since I started my business that it's just another iteration of like every year, every couple of months, insert marketing tactic is dead. So at the
Yes.
start of the year, with Jenna Kutcher and Amy Porterfield shutting down parts of their business that were very successful, it's like podcasts are dead. They're not. Online courses are dead. They're not. It's kind of like that fear mongering that I really
Hmm.
take issue with.
Hmm.
Because again, it's like all these marketing things work. And as you know, you've studied marketing before. Like the foundations still exist. They
Yes.
still work. They just look a little bit different as we move through them. So I think that yes, use AI, but use it to enhance, like to help you or to make things a little bit easier. Because I know that for a lot of people, it's really helpful to save themselves time or make things easier because I know that creating content isn't everyone's idea of a good time. It
Yeah.
might be mine. I love to sit down and write an email on a Sunday and just see whatever comes out.
Mm.
Most people, but I also don't have kids. I don't have a partner. Like I can spend more time doing those things and I
Mhm.
enjoy it. But I
Mhm.
know that that's not the case for everyone. So
Mm.
if it helps you in certain elements to make things faster,
Mhm.
then like I'm all for that. Or um yeah, making things easier for you. I'm all for that. But I just wouldn't be using it for things that require like my thoughts, my
Mm.
perspectives, my voice in
Mhm.
in those things because again, they're the things that no one else can replicate. No one else has them.
Yeah.
And especially in a market where an online space where there is so much content going out every single day
Mhm.
and it all sounds the same, what's going to stand out? Is it more of the same or like you being different and you being yourself?
Mhm.
So definitely don't use it. I wouldn't recommend using it in that way,
Mhm.
just because I think that yeah, I don't really want to open Instagram and see all the same kind of content. I want to see like the things that you love. If for me, it's like I love dogs, I love magic, I love all of these things, and I want to bring that to the table so people can see that and I can connect with other people like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I could go on all day about AI, but I I don't want to be perceived as an AI hater, which I'm
Mhm.
not. And I
Mhm.
do use it, in my business to help me. But some ways in which I use it, if you're thinking, well, what do you use it for then, Darren? I'm more of using it for like if I've done a market research survey, which I've done recently and I do regularly with my audience, I get it to pull out common themes. Like again, so I don't have to
Mhm.
sit there and like manually look at things and, pull things out. I can get it to analyze that for me. If I have transcripts and I can get it to pull out, like especially with my coach,
Mhm.
if we're saying things and we're riffing on things and, she gets on a roll, which she always does, I don't have to like keep up with it. I can go and like, what did Ellie say,
Mhm.
in the call about XYZ? And it's going to pull it out for me. Or, what are the common themes from, coaching calls or things
Mhm.
like that that's
Mhm.
going to help me create content from my perspective because I
Mhm.
have that information. So it's more like uh, the data that I'm pulling from to help me then go and create that content from my unique perspective. So yeah, that's how I use it. And sometimes, like honestly, I'm just like my brain is stuck. Like, can you tell me, here's what I'm thinking. Like
Mhm.
what is ways in which I could create a piece of content. But more often than not, I look at it and go, I could do better than that. So I leave it. But it
Yeah.
helps me to like kind of clear the stuff out of my brain.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's, again, so much nuance in it that you just do so beautifully because it's exactly right. It's like, I feel like almost being an AI hater or a full pro the other way is that binary that we see so much online. I think that's really contributed to the like trust recession that we're kind of in as well in that online business is like real and online marketing is really going through a phase of like there's more work required now to build that trust and rapport with people who have been burned before or have just been caught up in all of the binary kind of marketing, the rage bait, the AI generated content and everything. And the nuance is such an important aspect of that because it's always more than just one thing. And I personally love it just because I'm a solopreneur and it actually helps me to sort out all my ideas and my thoughts that are all jumbled inside of my brain and just get it out and then have it logically organize my thoughts in a way that I'm like, oh, there's some really good stuff in there that I could not have pulled out myself because I'm this close to it. So I
Yeah.
find that really helpful as well. In terms of just the marketing and the messaging side of things, just to touch back on that with the building trust in a world that is we're in such a divisive kind of place in online, especially social media platforms that has been like very much, I think, constructed in the last few years. We are just inundated with noise because of the sheer volume of content that we're exposed to and messaging we're exposed to every day. And then you add the AI element in there as well, and it's just like a thousandfold. What would you recommend to anyone who's listening who is like, I'm just this one little person? How do I cut through and really connect with my people with the human element, with the nuance that is so, we're all so desperately craving right now?
Yeah, I think that it is an interesting time and like, I think it's helpful to know that even someone like me who I creating content is my job essentially,
Hmm.
and I'm in it all the time, is I find it a lot to
Hmm.
go onto social media and to keep up with like the state of the world, and then
Hmm.
all the AI stuff, and then all my own stuff, and be like, oh, I've got to still create content for my business, right? And so I think that it's really important to stay connected to, you know, and, and it's hard because I do go through the same thing. It's like it would be easy for me to go down the pathway and teach how to use AI to create content. Like that would be the easiest
Yeah,
thing for me to do right now. And
sure. Yeah.
yeah, is just to that is my new messaging, is that I am the go-to person to teach you how to use AI correctly to use content.
Hmm.
But I don't want to do that
Hmm.
also, because
Hmm.
easiest doesn't always mean best. And I
Yeah.
think this is that conversation again, is that yes, it's easy to over rely on
Mm.
AI because it's there, it pumps things out really quickly for you.
Yeah.
But also just remembering that, like, as we talked about at the start, half the fun is like actually learning new things and things not going the right way, and
Mhm.
like making mistakes and learning something, doing something differently. Like I wouldn't be in my business like still to this day if it hadn't been like those learning moments, and I didn't take those moments and then apply that to my content and everything and how I support my clients. So I
Mm.
think just remembering that the journey is also like part of the magic of
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
And that stuff that is AI can't replicate,
Mm.
or, someone else can take your business idea, they can copy your offers, they can copy your branding. Everyone has similar branding, they can use the same templates, you can use
Mhm.
AI to create content, but they can't take away like what makes you magic and like what makes you different. They can't take away those elements. So I think just really staying tapped into that when you're creating content, and really just making sure that you practice, like you stay connected to that, I think is
Mm.
is is probably like the most important thing
Mhm.
going forward,
Mhm.
and that will stand the test of time.
Mhm.
And I think that especially now is that we need more people to really just stand in there like and use their voice. And this applies to the world in general. And it also applies to online business, because we could get swept up in everything AI and all of the stuff happening in the world. But we really need to use our voices and to speak up and to use them, like, and tell our stories and share our perspective.
Mhm.
And even when it's hard, like I said, the easiest thing for me would to be just go and be like, I'm going to teach you how to use AI.
Mhm.
But I think there's so much magic in people and their stories, perspectives, and their thoughts. And I would much rather focus on the people who really like want to bring that out and who want to do things differently. And
Mhm.
so I'm willing to stand in the shit and take it if it helps other people to do the same thing. I think I love it when I see other people like sharing their magic in a
Mhm.
way that is just like powerful. Like they don't care, like they just
Mhm.
believe in themselves. They have that trust. And so that's what I want to bring more to the world. So I think that is actually gonna stand you in a good position if you do that, just based on what I'm seeing with the content. Because I mean, yeah, I'm sure everyone has people who they love following because they
Mhm.
do things differently. They're not doing things the same as everyone else. And so I think there's real power in that. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for sharing that, because you said so much in there that I think is really a perspective shift.
Mm.
because I think there is that tendency. And, I always say, like, as introverts, we have like a softer energy field. That's why we're so impacted by the energy of other people in environments and things. We need that time alone to go away and re-energize. And I feel like in the online space, unless you create like very specific boundaries around how you're engaging with the different platforms, it can be so easy to get swept up in other people's energy and what they're focusing on and doing. And for those of us who've been around for a little while, we know that the trend will pass, the bubble will burst. And then 90% of people that are talking about and creating content or creating offers or content around AI right now, they will move on to the next thing. And that's what you can always guarantee. There will always be, this is the thing everyone's focusing on right now. And then that will hit its peak and then it will be something else that people move on to. And I just love what you said there. It really reflects what I talk about a lot as well, that who you are is the one thing that it can't be copied, it can't be AI-ified. It is at the heart of who you are and what you do, and no one can do it like you do. And
Mm.
so important to remember. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, I think that I always talk about, it's just so much easier to be yourself
Yeah.
and to then try to be like anyone else
Hmm.
and just really staying true to who you are.
Yeah.
And, I hold that belief that those people will always win.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes it's hard to believe that. I understand. But yeah, like you said, having those really good boundaries about who you follow online, like the
Mm.
places where you get your information from. And I
Mhm.
think it's equally important for us to show up how we are because then we attract those people into our world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why I'll always be unapologetically myself
Hmm.
and stand up for what I believe in and stay true to myself in the hope that other people will see that in me and want the same to be able to do that for themselves. And so it's not always easy or comfortable,
Yeah.
but it's just at this point, I've come this far, so I may as well keep going.
100%. I'm with you. We're on that journey together, and you're right. It's not always comfortable, but when it comes back to like, I always like cozy business for me is like it's that like weighted blanket around your shoulders and a warm beverage in your hand. It's like building something that supports you, and that requires sometimes being uncomfortable because that so often is going against what everybody else is doing or what the trend is right now versus like just wanting to be comfy and protected all the time. But yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I could literally talk to you about this stuff all day. So it's been such a joy to get to really have a proper conversation with you. And so I thank you so much for being here and just adding so much nuance and so much perspective that I think often gets missed in these conversations around marketing and messaging and social media and things. For anyone who is listening who wants to connect with you further, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, I mean, the best place is Instagram. So my handle is at the social bolt. It's all one word. And you'll see me sharing, if you like dogs, then that's a great place to follow me. Please send me a photo of your dog if you have one, even your cat. If you are trying to spend less time on Instagram, but you like podcasts, and you have a business, I have the How I Do Content podcast with weekly episodes where I dive into all things messaging, marketing, business, all of those things. So that's probably the best two places to find me on, depending on where you like to get your information from.
Amazing. Thank you again so much for being here. I have loved this conversation so much, and I will probably just talk to you on Instagram in like 20 minutes.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.